Yeah, but she needs to be on a better. She needs to be on a better team.
The WNBA has officially committed an act of self-sabotage, so profound that it will be studied for years to come. After a season defined by brutal uncalled fouls and a shocking level of disrespect, their golden goose, Caitlin Clark, is reportedly finalizing her escape to Europe, and she has no reason to look back. The league was gifted a generational talent, a one-woman economic revolution, and instead of protecting their most valuable asset, they allowed her to be used as a human punching bag in a cynical display of on-court hazing. Now, as the fallout triggers a meltdown across the sports world, the full story is emerging. A toxic cocktail of professional jealousy, deliberately targeted aggression, and a level of administrative incompetence so severe that it managed to push their biggest star to the breaking point before her rookie season even concluded.
She struggled with physical defense she's faced at the professional level and voiced frustration with the league's officiating, recently telling reporters, quote, "I feel like I'm getting hammered and everybody is physical with me, and opponents get away with things that other people don't get away with." That's what Caitlin Clark...
The rumors of a European exit have erupted into a full-blown media inferno. ESPN is now scrambling to report on a colossal new contract, posturing as if it still holds any influence over her decisions. The truth is that privilege was forfeited weeks ago. For Clark, Europe represents something the WNBA has proven incapable of offering: sanctuary. It's an opportunity to play in a basketball ecosystem where elite talent is celebrated, not systematically targeted, where superstars are treated as cherished assets, not battered into submission. She leaves behind a trail of shattered egos and broken dreams, a league that had victory in its grasp and somehow managed to let it slip away. Realizing that staying meant enduring more of the same, she's walking away from the chaos and toward a future where her talent will finally take center stage.
What I am upset about, it's like, hey man, your meal ticket is under constant attack. There's been dirty plays all season.
From the opening tip-off of her debut, the physicality Clark endured operated on an entirely different level of aggression. This wasn't the typical welcome to the league initiation that rookies are expected to survive. It was a calculated ambush, executed with personal malice and a relentless viciousness that was impossible to ignore. Opponents weren't just playing her tough, they were treating her like a linebacker on a football field. Every drive to the basket was met with a flying elbow. Every cut through the lane became an open invitation for a hip check. It was as if she stepped into a back alley brawl every night, forced to endure a targeted campaign of physical intimidation designed not just to stop her, but to break her.
On the wrong team, she's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality of that league.
While Clark was being systematically targeted on the court, the referees appeared to have taken a vow of silence. Their whistles stayed quiet, tucked away, as if they were mere decorations. Blatant, aggressive fouls were consistently ignored. Dangerous cheap shots were deliberately overlooked. Officials repeatedly allowed opponents to get away with infractions that would have resulted in immediate penalties for any other player. This went far beyond a few missed calls. It was a consistent and glaring pattern of negligence that turned the basketball court into a high-risk injury zone for the league's biggest star. By empowering its officials to look the other way, the WNBA became an active accomplice in her mistreatment, sending a chilling message to the entire league. The rules don't apply when it comes to Caitlin Clark.
If Caitlin Clark is the quote-unquote savior, if she's the golden girl, milk it!
This wasn't a narrative invented by fans or click-hungry analysts. Caitlin Clark herself confirmed the reality of her situation, telling reporters with raw honesty, "I feel like I'm getting hammered." It was a staggering admission from a competitor known for her unshakable composure, a direct appeal for help. She carefully explained how opponents were being held to a different standard when defending her, engaging in levels of contact that other players never had to face. She wasn't just being played hard, she was being systematically targeted, and she knew it. For the league's marquee player to publicly state that she felt unprotected should have triggered a 5-alarm fire in the WNBA's headquarters. Instead, it was met with cold, deafening silence, a fatal miscalculation.
Truth is finally coming to the light. The same light that is going to be dimming here in about 12 hours when Caitlin Clark is eliminated from the playoffs.
The league's catastrophic failure to protect Clark becomes almost surreal when you examine the financial tidal wave she created. Before her arrival, the Indiana Fever struggled to attract even 3,000 fans to a game, playing in nearly empty arenas. After Clark joined, that number exploded to a staggering 17,000 fans per contest, a mind-boggling 400% surge. The Fever instantly became the league's top draw, selling out arenas both at home and on the road. This was the Caitlin Clark effect in action, an economic miracle. She wasn't just another star. She was a cultural phenomenon who single-handedly transformed the WNBA into must-see television. Her jersey became the highest-selling in league history, eclipsing the combined sales of all-time legends. She was a living, breathing financial juggernaut, and the league stood by and watched as its rivals tried to tear her down.
It's important that we point this out. One of the things that I brought up this morning in talking about Caitlin Clark is that some of the players, you want to use the word jealousy, fine. You want to use the word envy.
It's almost comical to watch the sudden pivot from major sports media outlets. After offering lukewarm, almost dismissive coverage all season, framing her as just another rookie, they're now scrambling in a panic, pretending they didn't completely ignore the crisis that had been brewing in plain sight. While Clark was single-handedly propping up the league with record-breaking ratings, her games were often treated as an afterthought in national sports coverage. Now that she's reportedly on the verge of leaving, those same outlets are framing her potential departure as a world-stopping catastrophe. Her matchup against the New York Liberty drew 1.5 million viewers, a number that actually surpassed some nationally televised NBA games. Yet the media narrative never reflected the true scale of her impact. Now, it's far too little, far too late. The truth has detonated into the open, and the media is left scrambling to explain how they fumbled the easiest, most profitable sports story in years.
But if you're not delivering the product and you're not making the revenue and you're not, giving people the entertainment that they want, then you're not going to make any money and your league is going to.
Call it professional jealousy or call it bitter envy. But the truth is, a toxic resentment toward Caitlin Clark was quietly poisoning the league's locker rooms. Imagine being a respected veteran, the face of a franchise for years, only to be instantly eclipsed by a rookie who becomes the center of the basketball universe. Instead of realizing that her unprecedented star power was a rising tide lifting all boats, a faction of players saw her as an existential threat. That bitterness began to manifest on the court through vindictive fouls and reckless, overly aggressive plays. These weren't competitive battles, they were personal statements. The goal wasn't just to win the game, it was to send a message, to physically diminish the golden girl who had stolen their spotlight. And the worst part, this poisonous culture was allowed to fester unchecked. The league turned a blind eye, and in doing so, created an environment where targeting its brightest star became an accepted, unspoken strategy.
And this woman swats at the basketball and somehow decides to turn her hand down and her fingernails and jab them right into the eye of Caitlin Clark. No foul call. No refs stopping the game to go, is this a flagrant? None of that. Just everybody moved on.
If there was one moment that perfectly captured the league's arrogance and dismissive attitude, it was the now infamous iPad incident. This should have been a blaring, system-wide alarm for everyone involved, a turning point that demanded immediate reflection and reform. Instead, the WNBA chose to sweep it under the rug, effectively normalizing the idea that it was acceptable for their biggest star to be treated like an outcast. The scene became more than just a viral clip. It was a symbol. a visual metaphor for the disrespect, the alienation, and the simmering hostility Caitlin Clark was facing on a daily basis. And yet, the league did nothing. No statement, no accountability, no course correction. They consciously ignored the warning signs, a decision that would soon reveal itself as one of the most catastrophic mistakes in franchise history.
Mistake.
Those guys, they're the racists when really y'all are the racists. The people coming up with excuses to hate Caitlin Clark and the new fan base that she brought.
The psychological toll was already immense, but the danger soon escalated to an entirely new level. During one unforgettable game, an opponent, under the guise of going for the ball, made deliberate contact that left Clark clutching her face in visible pain. It wasn't just an accident. It was an unmistakable act of aggression, a moment that crossed every boundary of sportsmanship. And yet, what followed was even more disturbing. No whistle, no review, no accountability. The officials simply let play continue, as if nothing had happened. At that point, it was no longer just about basketball. It was about a league that had allowed a culture of impunity to take root, where its brightest star could be targeted in plain sight and still receive no protection.
Honestly, it's been a lot of nonsense. I think in my 11-year career, I've never experienced the racial comments from the Indiana Fever fan base. We had her face on a serious matter that happened in this world, and it's unacceptable, honestly. And there's no place for it.
But the attacks weren't confined to the court. After a particularly grueling matchup, veteran forward Alyssa Thomas used a post-game interview to redirect the spotlight, implying that Clark's rise to stardom was driven more by racial dynamics than by her performance. She went further, claiming she had been the target of inappropriate comments from sections of the Indiana Fever fan base. In that single moment, the story surrounding Clark's historic rookie season was abruptly twisted. What had been a celebration of talent and perseverance devolved into a divisive public argument. It was a calculated reframing, one that threatened to overshadow her accomplishments and reduce months of hard-earned success to a culture war flashpoint. And the media, ever hungry for controversy, amplified it immediately, turning speculation into headlines and debate into spectacle.
She's got 14,000 followers. And it's really easy to ignore, and most people don't know who she is in the sports world. The only reason why people even know who she is because of Caitlin Clark. And she still only got 14,000 followers on Twitter. She doesn't have much of a brand.
In the midst of this media maelstrom, Clark remained the consummate professional. She stood her ground with composure and conviction, emphasizing that her success was built on relentless work and unshakable dedication, not on any manufactured racial narrative. Yet the very fact that she had to defend her own merit spoke volumes about how warped the public discourse had become. While she was on the court rewriting record books, carrying her team, and handling enormous expectations, she was simultaneously dragged into off-court controversies she never initiated. Instead of being celebrated purely for her brilliance, she was pulled into a toxic cycle of envy and distortion, fueled by a media ecosystem that profits most when conflict eclipses achievement.
Your biggest star, your meal ticket, the reason why you have relevancy, just got stabbed and assaulted and nothing.
For years, the WNBA has presented itself as a beacon of empowerment, equality, and progress, a league that champions opportunity and inclusion above all else. Its marketing has proudly worn those values as a badge of honor. But when the moment came to actually live them, to protect and uplift its most valuable, most visible star, the league failed spectacularly. It didn't just stumble, it abandoned her. The very institution that should have celebrated her brilliance and built an empire around her stood by in silence as she was systematically torn down, physically on the court and reputationally off it. Their golden ticket, the very heartbeat of the league's resurgence, was under siege, and the league's response was nothing. No defense, no accountability, just empty slogans and performative ideals. It was hypocrisy of the highest order, a betrayal not just of Caitlin Clark, but of everything the league claimed to stand for.
What I am upset about is like, hey man, your meal ticket is under constant attack. There's been dirty plays all.
Now, with Caitlin Clark's departure for Europe all but confirmed, the WNBA and ESPN are left sifting through the wreckage of their own creation. The golden goose has flown the coop, leaving behind a barren field of lost opportunity. In a desperate scramble, they're trying to elevate other players into her orbit, but it feels hollow, contrived, even. The authenticity, the magic, the cultural spark she brought to the game can't be manufactured. The bitter irony is that they only began to grasp the magnitude of what they had at the precise moment she decided to leave. Every sold-out arena, every spike in ratings, every jersey sold now stands as a haunting reminder of what could have been. They were handed a once-in-a-generation gift, a chance to build a dynasty, to redefine women's basketball forever, and instead, they let it all crumble to dust.
Caitlin Clark was assaulted yesterday in her very first playoff game in the W.
What does the WNBA look like without its central star? It looks like a painful return to reality. It looks like thousands of empty seats in arenas that were sold out just months ago. It looks like Caitlin Clark jerseys collecting dust on the clearance rack. It looks like network executives scrambling to explain to their bosses why their ratings have fallen off a cliff. They've become the punchline of a joke they didn't even realize they were telling. Her absence leaves a vacuum, one filled with chaos, silence, and regret. The league that once brushed against the sun is now plummeting back to earth, forced to confront the brutal truth. Caitlin Clark didn't just elevate the WNBA, she was the WNBA. And without her, they are right back where they started, lost in the shadows she once illuminated.
She's the golden goose.
This is far more than a personnel loss. It's a self-inflicted historical tragedy. The WNBA was handed a winning Powerball ticket and somehow managed to shred it into confetti. Generational talents like Caitlin Clark appear once in a lifetime. When they do, you build around them. You shield them. You treat them like royalty. Instead, the league and its media partners had their moment and completely, utterly blew it. Now, as Clark prepares to take her brilliance and global influence to Europe, a league that will cherish what she brings, the WNBA is left to sift through the rubble of its own shattered credibility. She deserved better, much better, and this will forever stand as one of the most avoidable, catastrophic fumbles in modern sports history. But beyond the league's systemic collapse was another glaring problem: her own team. The Indiana Fever, though scrappy, looked utterly unprepared for the supernova that landed in their locker room. Chemistry was fractured, execution erratic, and defense inconsistent. Clark wasn't just a rookie, she was a one-woman rescue mission. Night after night, she fought a war on two fronts, enduring the physical onslaught from opponents while trying to elevate a roster that wasn't ready for her level of brilliance. She wasn't just a playmaker, she was a miracle worker. Her move to Europe won't just be a loss for the WNBA, it'll be a seismic shift for global basketball. Wherever she goes, she'll take an entire ecosystem with her. Millions of fans, massive media attention, and an economic boom that will redefine the landscape. The league that signs her won't just get an athlete. They'll inherit a cultural phenomenon. For the WNBA, it's a terrifying new reality, one where they may no longer sit at the top of the women's basketball world. The fans she brought into the sport, those who bought tickets, jerseys, and hope, feel betrayed. They saw the league's silence while she was battered on the court and vilified off it. Now, they're ready to walk away with her, leaving behind a hollow shell of what could have been a golden era. Caitlin Clark's story has torn back the curtain on the WNBA's deepest flaws. The pay disparities that drive stars overseas, the chronic marketing failures that preceded her arrival, and a culture that treated disruption as a threat instead of salvation. This was never just about one player. It was about a system that was wholly unprepared for the gift it was given. And now, the final question hangs like a warning shot over the league's future. Has the damage already been done? Even if they beg her to stay, can they ever repair the trust they destroyed? The WNBA was presented with a simple choice: evolve and protect the future or cater to the egos of the past. They chose the latter. The trust is broken, the disrespect undeniable, the incompetence undeniable. They didn't just lose a player, they gambled with their own future. And as the sports world watches this slow-motion collapse, one brutal truth remains impossible to ignore. They were given greatness, and they let it slip through their fingers.